Once upon a time, Pokemon Snap had nothing to do with Pokemon at all. Originally, HAL Laboratory in Pax Sopnica had a development team named Jack and Beans, and they were working on a Jack and the Beanstalk game where you ran around and took photos. But after a lack of satisfactory progress with the game, and the incredible commercial success of Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue, the executive decision to make it a Pokemon game was made. And being the first official 3D Pokemon game, it was a massive commercial success, not only selling over 3.6 million units worldwide, but also dominating video game rental charts. As an added bonus, you could even go to your local Blockbuster, or a Lawson if you lived in Japan, and print out photos of the Pokemon you snapped in-game. And there were even multiple photo contests that took place over the years, one of which included a trip to Australia as the grand prize. And while the game later saw a virtual console release and it's currently available on the Nintendo Switch Online, which is the best way to experience this game nowadays, growing up, the game was nothing more than a week-long Blockbuster rental for me, because we only got 2 new games a year on a good year, so those permanent titles as a kid had to be something that would last a very long time. And Pokemon Snap is fun, but it's incredibly short. You can very easily 100% the game in a single sitting. It's a rail shooter with only 7 levels, the replay value coming in the form of discovering events that you can trigger along the predetermined course path, and from getting high scores of Pokemon on your safari adventure. But after not playing this game for almost 25 years, I found a cheap copy at a local store, so I'm going to play this game once again, but this time with RetroAchievements. The scoring criteria for a photo in this game are simple enough. The big 3 are size, which is how much of a photo the Pokemon takes up while still being fully in frame; pose, which is how the Pokemon is facing and if they're doing anything outside the standard idle animation; and technique, which is based on the Pokemon being centered in the frame or not, which doubles your score. And then there's 2 other bonuses less commonly awarded. Special is a specific set of predefined Pokemon activities such as Pikachu on a surfboard, and it's awarded at the very beginning if applicable. And then you have bonus Pokemon if multiple Pokemon of the same species are present in the photo, which gets tacked on at the very end after the technique bonus. And at most, you can only submit 1 photo for scoring per Pokemon per level run. And since many of the achievements in this set generally require the use of mechanics unlocked throughout your initial playthrough, let's just do a quick walkthrough first. Complete the beach once to unlock the tunnel, then when your Pokemon report total equals 14,000 points or more, you unlock apples which you can use to either lure or pelt Pokemon with. Pelt the electrode near the end of the tunnel to open up the volcano, complete the volcano to unlock the river, and then once your report total equals 75,000 points or more, you unlock the Pester Ball, which does exactly what it says on the tin. Then use a Pester Ball and a hidden Porygon near the end of the river to unlock the cave. Then after submitting 40 different species of Pokemon, you unlock the valley. In the valley, by knocking a Squirtle into a Mankey and then knocking that Mankey onto a switch, you encounter Professor Oak in his cabin, where he sends you on a new quest to photograph all 6 Pokemon signs, one in each of the 6 main levels. After your first sign submission, you'll earn the Pokeflute, which can be used for some easy pose bonus scores in your photos, and then once you get a report total of 175,000 points or more, you'll get the Dash Engine, which allows you to speed through levels, and it's very convenient when revisiting levels with the intent of only snapping a select few Pokemon. After submitting all 6 signs, you then unlock the final level, Rainbow Cloud, and you only have a single goal: photograph a Mew. You can't photograph him behind the barrier, so you have to break it open with apples or Pester Balls, 3 hits for Phase 1 and 3 hits for Phase 2. Snap and submit a single photo of Mew as it escapes, and then you'll trigger the credits and unlock the high score challenges. More on that later. Then if you continue on and submit a photo of all 63 Pokemon in the game, not only will you trigger the credits again, but you'll also have a minimum of 20 retro achievements unlocked, but there's 51 in the set. Several of these you'll naturally unlock anyways without trying, such as the 5,000 point photo score or getting a 1,250 point pose score. So now let's wrap up those missing achievements in each level. For Pikachu on a surfboard, just lure it to the board at the very beginning with apples. Not only is this an easy way to get the 5,000 point photo achievement, but this photo op will come in handy later on too. There's also an achievement for a Lapras score of 3,000 points or more. Just take a photo of each distant Lapras that you encounter along the route, and then that will cause one to appear much closer to the shore at the very end. You probably got this next one already, but at the end of the level, snap a photo of the Gust using Pidgey, and you'll get another achievement. And then lastly, there's Pikachu on a stump. By getting Scyther to pop out near the stump, a pair of Pikachus will come out. When you collide with a Pokemon, you'll actually remain frozen for a set period of time, so the easiest way to get this one is to either use a Pester Ball or dash into the Meowth that pops out. Then use that additional time caused by the collision to hit the Scyther in the grass with the Pester Ball before snapping the Pikachus on the stump. So then moving on to the tunnel, we only have 2 exclusive photo achievements here. First up is another Pikachu one, and it's also available near the very beginning. Just lure a Pikachu to an electrode, and then it'll stand on top of it. Then submit a photo of Pikachu on a ball for the achievement. Then after that, you need to get a Zapdos worth 4,500 points or more. Lure a Pikachu over to the egg, play the flute, and then aim for a large-size photo right as it hatches. Now is probably a good time to let you know that in addition to the dash engine allowing you to quickly reach a point in a level, after you snap the photo, you can just exit the course to return to Professor Oak for judging. You don't need to ride it all the way through or run out of film. So next up is the Volcano, where we not only have a bunch of achievement opportunities right next to each other, but we also have one of my personal favorite achievements in the entire set, snapping a Charmander with the same Pokemon score of over 1,000 points. You'll also get the 4,000 point Charmander achievement here, and even the 5,000 point photo achievement if you haven't already. Ride along the path until you reach the Moltres egg, but don't knock it off the path just yet. Turn to the left and use the apples to lure out a horde of Charmanders. Get them all into frame, get a quick pose score one way or another, and then you're good to go. Right after that, knock down the egg and prepare for your 4,500 point Moltres. The dash engine can help you get a slightly larger photo as it shines for the pose score. And then right after the Moltres, throw an apple in between the two Magmars so they use flamethrower on each other. After snapping and submitting that photo for another achievement, we're off to the river, which is going to be the easiest spot to get a 4,000 point Bulbasaur. Lure two of them with apples at the very beginning for good measure, and then get a good close-up from there. Then you also have an achievement for snapping the Agility Pikachu, but it doesn't have a score requirement, so feel free to just waste the rest of your roll. And then we have the Cave, which is home to most of the hardest achievements in this set. The 4,000 point Ditto might actually take you quite a few attempts, but thankfully it's relatively close to the start. Lob some Pester Balls at the Dittos disguised as Bulbasaur so they revert back to their normal form, and then quickly lure the group together with apples to get a prize-winning photo. Then later on in the level, you'll encounter a Koffing tormenting a Jigglypuff. By hitting one Koffing to free the Jigglypuff, another duo will appear, and then freeing that second Jigglypuff will spawn a third duo. If you free one or two of them, submitting a photo of them singing at the end of the level will net you one achievement, and then freeing all three and submitting a photo with the singing trio will net you a second achievement. And then this section here has multiple achievements tied to it. Lobbing a Pester Ball at this Zubat will cause it to drop the Pikachu, and then you can snap a Balloon Pikachu photo which nets you an achievement. Then you have an achievement for a 4,500 point Articuno, which is hatched via the Pokeflute. The easiest time to get this score is right after it hatches because its wings won't be fully spread yet, allowing you to get the size bonus much more easily. And lastly, you have a separate achievement for Flying Pikachu, not to be confused with Balloon Pikachu. If you manage to both free the Pikachu and hatch the Articuno, Pikachu will hop on right as you head into the final section. There's no score requirement here, but make sure you specifically snap the Pikachu and not the Articuno. If you really want to get a massive score on this one though, you can actually slow down your vehicle a bit by spamming C right and C left, and then snap a photo of the Pikachu right as the Articuno flies through you. After that achievement, we move on to the Valley, which only has 2 exclusive achievements here, and both of them are pretty easy. The Dancing Graveler trio only requires the Pokeflute, and then for the 4,000 point Squirtle, right at the very beginning, knock 2 or 3 of them onto land and then get a pose score. And I swear I didn't mean for this to be my highest scoring Squirtle photo. I tried to beat this score too and then I couldn't. Professor Oak just really loves this photo of 2 Squirtles in their natural habitat for some reason. But anyways, next up are the high score challenges, where every photo that you take is scored regardless of whether or not you submit them. You simply have to beat the base high score for all of the levels, which not only gives you quite a bit of wiggle room to achieve, but they're all really easy to beat once you figure out the mechanics. There's a multiplier for each individual species of Pokemon photographed in that session, and then after maxing out that bonus, you just want to waste the entire rest of your film roll on high point photos. So to use the cave as an example here, if I just took one half-ass photo of every species for the multiplier bonus, and then spent the entire rest of my film roll on the singing Jigglypuff trio, I'd be way over the high score in a heartbeat. So in addition to always maxing out your multiplier bonus, the beach is going to be almost entirely shots of the surfing Pikachu and Snorlax, the tunnel will be mostly Pikachu on a ball and Zapdos, the volcano will almost entirely be the Charmander horde, the river will be Bulbasaur, Slowpoke, and Porygon, and then the valley will almost entirely be the Dancing Graveler trio. Then for Rainbow Cloud, you can simply stunlock Mew into the center, snap a few photos, and then stun it again for more photos, and so forth over and over, and then go through the entire roll without ever giving it a chance to recover. Though it's also completely possible that you'll unlock this achievement naturally as you're attempting the final and hardest challenge in the entire set, a 10,000 point Mew. And because that's the maximum possible score, that means that in order to finish this set, we're going to have to tie the world record. And when perfection is the bar, Professor Oak is going to feel incredibly picky with his judgment. So after breaking the barrier, you're going to have to time the photo so that Mew ends the spinning animation right as you're directly in front of it. Easier said than done though. You'll have multiple photos that feel like it's perfect, only to somehow get graded worse than your last photo. The best advice I can give you is to try to get the head along the top border and then the tail to the left border. This means that you're shooting roughly in between the right arm and the stomach rather than a dead center focus on the body. After enough perseverance, I finally got it. And while it is pretty neat to say I now have a tied world record, I'm far from the only person to ever achieve this. Remember in the very beginning when I mentioned that there was a Pokemon Snap photo contest with the grand prize being a trip to Australia? From what little information I was able to find, apparently so many people had the same idea to submit a perfect Mew that it caused a massive multi-way tie, which led to a round 2 being created, where the winner was picked via an essay contest instead. I have reached out to several people who entered the contest back in the day and made it to round 2 to see if they still had the letter so I could see what it said. And if I ever get a copy of that or see what the winning essay was, I could definitely make a separate video on that. But for now, with another game mastered, that's all I got for now. Did you know that there are fan-made custom levels for Pokemon Snap? There's currently 2. One of the basement from GoldenEye and one of Rithessa from Jet Force Gemini. And there's an achievement set for those too. The basement is admittedly a bit more of a proof of concept and it's a bit janky, but I'm not one to complain about free stuff made by people in their spare time, especially when it's for a system that's incredibly hard to develop for. I still enjoyed it for what it was, especially because, fun fact, GoldenEye originally was designed as a rail shooter before becoming an FPS, so now we've gone full circle. There are 8 Pokemon total in the basement, and snapping all 8 in a single session is worth an achievement. There's also one for a 2,500 point Pidgey, a 3,000 point Doduo, and a 3,500 point Lapras, all of which you'll find plenty of opportunities for. And lastly, you'll have one for a 1,500 point Kangaskhan, which isn't hard, but you just need to make sure you get the face in the photo for the pose score. So after getting all 5 achievements in the basement, we then move on to Rithessa, which is a much more complete level with 10 achievements in it. And this one was really fun to play. I managed to find all 11 Pokemon in a single session first try, but there's still 9 more achievements for photo scores, several of which you'll probably grab on your first run. At the very beginning, get the Scyther to appear for an attempt at a 3,000 point photo, and then after spawning the Scyther, a second Pikachu will appear, and getting a photo of them both will net you a second achievement. There's also another Pikachu achievement for a 5,000 point photo, along with achievements for a 3,000 point Butterfree, a 4,000 point Pidgey, a 3,500 point Lapras, a 4,000 point Chansey, and a 4,000 point Kangaskhan. And then the final achievement is at the very end of this level, a 4,000 point Meowth, which took me a few attempts due to me completely overthinking it. I thought I needed to get a perfect photo during this normal pose it does, but instead you get more points by just using the Pokeflute. And then with those 2 custom levels completed, we've obtained a second mastery in this episode. Being a small and easy hack, it's not worth much point-wise, but they are worth playing at least once regardless of retro achievements. But back to the main set, I very much enjoyed the game with retro achievements. The biggest downfall of Pokemon Snap has always been the incredibly short length, which makes this a great textbook example of how retro achievements can create a structure of goals to expand upon the replay value of a game, while also potentially teaching you things about the game that you might not have known before. Meanwhile, the perfect Mew, while challenging, is still more than doable, and it's a perfect way to make that distinction between completing a game and mastering it without being unbearably hard to do so. So not only is the set great for anyone who enjoys the game, but if I were to ever play the game again, I would definitely replay the entire retro achievement set too, including the Mew one. So that's all I got for now. If you have a game suggestion, let me know in the comments, and if I have it, I'll let you know. I hope you all have a wonderful day.